Hello there, welcome to In My Opinion-Dandara.
Okay, I'm gonna be straight with you and say there's barely a plot here. The most it tells us is this world was peaceful, then something goes wrong and evil, and then a being comes into assistance named Dandara to stop said evil. The plot is not what you're here for, it's the gameplay, which I will get into now. This is a 2D Metroidvania platformer, but as you can clearly see, it's not the usual type of platformer where you walk around and jump. You're actually stuck to the floor or ceiling, then you aim with your stick to where you want to go to next, and the areas show you which spots are possible to stick to. You do have a means to protect yourself by charging up your arrow shot and blasting the enemies away, and gain sub attacks like missiles by going through the story and just exploring. Though you can't spam the sub attacks as you have a magic meter that drains the more you use them. And the only way to regain some of that bar back is by using items you find in chests or resting at the camps. These camps are pretty damn important because not only do they refuel your health and magic, they also let you improve yourself. As you blast enemies, boxes, and open chests, you gain salt. The salt lets you increase your health, magic, and makes the health and magic regain items more potent. Also, if you die, they work as a respawn point. And you might have noticed as well that when you die, you lose all your salt. But fear not, as the game lets you regain your lost salt if you can get back to where you died. The gameplay itself was incredibly fun. At first, it felt rather jarring how you zip around, but after a few minutes, you get the hang of it. Even when you get hit, the game is still rather fair since they don't make your character fly everywhere. Instead, you just float and you're able to attack and protect yourself until you gain your footing. The world itself is a pretty decent size, and thankfully you get a map very early in the game, letting you see what you have already explored. What's pretty neat is once you beat the game, it saves your spot right before the final confrontation. This lets you continue to explore the world in case you miss any chests or just didn't cover the whole map. Thankfully, after beating the game, you can make it show you the percentage of chests you've opened and how much of the map you've covered, to give you some type of hint to see how close you are to finding everything. Also, near the end of the game, you do get the ability to teleport to any campsite you've discovered, making backtracking faster. Though I still wish they added some kind of symbol to show chests that you've passed by. I mean, the game shows a big old X on the map to help you find the salt you lost when you die, so I don't see why they couldn't do that. There are some boss fights in the game which are really enjoyable, and combined with how you control your movements just make these fights extra tense. Though if you're finding this game a bit too hard, there is a cheat mode you can activate at any time, which gives you an infinite magic bar, and if you die you respawn right in the room you died in instead of one of the campsites. The only real penalty is your file will say cheat on it, which is really not a big deal, especially since trophies aren't disabled while this is active as well. The game's visuals remind me of Super Nintendo with just a little more power, and it comes off looking great. While our main lead does not have much face detail, her design is still rather striking, and I like the yellow scarf touch. The areas themselves are pretty varied, ranging from a forest to a desert to more of a futuristic looking spot. I also like how some spots actually start to bleed into each other, letting you know you're crossing over. The enemy design ain't bad at all, especially the bosses. I mean, it's not often you run into a giant purple head that kind of resembles a Nazi as an enemy. Thankfully, when you're going room to room, the load time is rather short to keep the game flowing nicely. I didn't run into any glitches or frame rate hitches through my playthrough.
I had a really good time with this unique little title. While the plot is almost non-existent, that doesn't really take away from it. The gameplay is still solid and the game itself sports some nice visuals. It took me about 6 hours and change to beat the game the first time around. In terms of replay value, there's collecting everything, doing speed runs since the game does keep track of your time, or activating some of the handicaps the game has after you beat the game, which are things like double damage and permadeath. I really recommend this title, so go out there and help Dandara save her world. And I promise it won't leave you with a salty experience. I hope you enjoy my thoughts in this game, and for gamer's sake, keep gaming.